A few months ago, I switched from the iPhone 14 Pro Max with the crisp 120Hz refresh rate, the dynamic island, and the always-on display, not to mention the largest battery life on an iPhone ever, down to the iPhone 13 mini. And I wasn't the only one doing this at that time. There was this wave of people experiencing problems with the iPhone 14 Pro Max, including frequent crashes, weird rotation issues, being unable to swipe up to unlock, and doesn't it say something that the iPhone stamped with the highest price tag is plagued with the most problems? But where my first video about switching to the mini went on about how the iPhone 14 Pro Max is a problem, this video is about how the iPhone 13 mini is the solution. So much of a solution that now I'm selling my 14 Pro Max and I'm currently using the 13 mini as my primary phone. So let's set the tone here. What did I lose when giving up the 14 Pro Max powerhouse and switching to the 13 mini? Well, on paper, it turns out quite a lot. You're losing 1.3 inches of screen real estate, a screen that's capable of 600 additional nits of max brightness in daylight, an always-on display to glance at notifications, the dynamic island, a wide variety of camera features like autofocus on the front camera. On the rear cameras, you're getting 36 less megapixels, the telephoto lens, action mode in video, 2 or 3 times zoom, and the big one, 12 to 24 hours of battery life. But the thing is, when Apple launches a new phone, they have a way of showing you the maximum potential of that phone. What is the absolute limit you, as a powerhouse user, can do? And the subtle undertone is, look what you're going to be able to achieve with this phone. When they announced the 12 Pro and Pro Max, they showed this rendering of 3D models of their room. And let me know in the comments if you've ever actually used that LiDAR sensor for anything other than seeing demos of Apple's own products on their site. So the question I asked myself was, how many of these features am I actually using to their full potential? And then I realized most people aren't making this move from the brand new top-of-the-line phone down to the mini. They're moving from the iPhone 11, the 10, maybe older. So in that regard, with the mini, you have a lot you're gaining, like a 5.4-inch Retina display that's built with ceramic shield. You're getting Face ID for security, 5G cellular and Wi-Fi 6, an A15 Bionic chip, which is the same chip in the 13 Pro Max, iPad mini 6, and the 3rd gen Apple TV 4K. You're also getting night mode photos and videos, portrait mode with depth control, 4K recording with cinematic mode, and MagSafe Accessories. So this is objectively a jam-packed feature phone that, remember, is coming in a form factor just as wide as a MagSafe battery pack, thinner than a Magic Keyboard, and overall extremely lightweight, to the point that I often forget it's in my pocket. And at that size, it's good enough to use fully one-handed, it's light enough that it doesn't strain your wrist, and you can hold this thing for hours if you want without fatigue, which is a problem with the Pro Max I feel too many people just aren't talking about in the community. And despite the notably smaller screen, I've never found that the mini struggled to display enough content. Everything just scales down beautifully. And what about performance? Does a 2-year-old phone keep up with the best phone Apple offers? Well, when it comes to most of the daily uses of scrolling through socials and taking calls, the mini always held up. But all things considered, I fully expected the performance to be terrible on the mini, given the size and the price point, and that just wasn't the case. The only problem that I found is that more intense tasks like gaming took noticeably longer on the mini. And even still, the games did load even if it took a few moments longer than the Pro Max. And if you're not testing them side by side, you're not even likely to notice any of this. The mini gave all indications that it was up to the challenges it was faced with and met or exceeded all of them. The only concern that I watched closely over testing was the battery life of the mini. It's packing a 2406 mAh battery that's quoting 12 to 14 hours less battery life than the Pro Max family. Now, I'm not someone who needs the full 2 days of battery life that the Pro Max has. I charge my phone at night. I just need it to basically get through one day. So my specific question was, is the mini good enough to get me through my day? And to answer that, I released a video specifically about battery life to show you the day-by-day battery drain versus the Pro Max. And now that more time has passed and my battery life is down to 94%, I would still say that the video holds up, with my mini lasting basically right to the end of the day. I've had the phone reach 1% battery once, but generally I get around the 10 to 20% mark by the end of my day. So it's not for those with battery anxiety. You might want to consider a MagSafe battery pack if that's you, but it is truly good enough to last you all day. But I think if you're going to get this phone, you'll find you're not using it all day like you might on a Pro Max. Let me explain. So this experiment had a really weird phenomenon that I actually didn't expect, which is, if you take a lot of the same common features of a modern phone, the same apps, the same layout, and you scale it down to a screen this small, even if it's exactly the same layout, just smaller, you naturally use it less. I noticed my screen time actually went down by about 1 hour per day as I continued to use the Mini over time. There were definitely times where I wanted to see something on a larger screen, where I would shift to the iPad mini for a more comfortable desktop view, or AirPlay more often to my TV when watching videos, but for the most part it allowed me to get what I needed to get done on the phone, and it nearly eliminated that mindless scrolling that I was used to on the Pro Max. And if you're looking for a phone that will last you, this phone is 2 years old, it has a battery life of 94%, still lasts all day, and Apple usually supports phones for about 6 years. Just this year I think they dropped the iPhone X, so with the 13 mini you've got at least 3 years left to go. My initial thought with this switch was that it would be a quick test, see what it's like to use a really small phone after using the Pro Max for years, maybe do a quick review, and then go right back to the Pro Max. But I mean, clearly that wasn't the case. After my test, which started at the beginning of this year, I fell more in love with the Mini and everything it had to offer. I found that I was actually taking advantage of most of the features that the Mini had to offer, and it slowly eased my screen time, naturally reducing it to the point where my phone felt like a compact resource in my life and not a time-wasting pastime. Simply put, the iPhone 13 mini is enough. So did Apple jump the gun in discontinuing this phone? Did they realize they made too good of a product that people would hold on to rather than upgrading? The ability to create a lower-end iPhone that's powerful, manageable, and helps people realize they don't need the best of the best tech is probably the most dangerous thing that they can do for sales. So with that said, will the iPhone mini ever come back? I don't know if we'll ever get the mini back as part of the headline flagship lineup, but reports about an upcoming iPhone SE with improved design have my hopes high. It keeps getting delayed and now it doesn't look like it's coming until 2024 or even 2025, and Apple pushing that date seems like they're monitoring the situation. With the recent push to get the Mini, it could have Apple thinking about developing a small powerhouse phone because the demand is rising. Let me know in the comments, by the way, if you want to get a new generation Mini or maybe like a Mini Pro. So a lot of you thought I was crazy, a lot of you supported my journey, and I'm sure Apple is probably angry that as a tech creator, I'm promoting a cheaper, older, discontinued phone. And it's a fair question, why would anyone choose to abandon the powerhouse Pro Max, the largest battery, the vibrant display, to switch to a 1.5-year-old phone? But I don't regret the switch at all. The compact form factor has proven benefits in my life, and the tech hasn't felt dated or like I'm missing features. Instead, I recognize the beauty of this compact powerhouse, and even if we're a year too late, this still remains the best iPhone ever created.